Few journeys capture the quiet resonance of modern royal duty quite like the Duke of Edinburgh's week-long swing through Canada this summer. On the surface it is a straightforward Commonwealth tour, meet and greets, heritage celebrations, handshakes, and the inevitable raft of commemorative photographs destined for future history books. Yet look a little closer, and Prince Edward's itinerary reveals something subtler, a carefully choreographed transfer of legacy, a reaffirmation of friendship between realms, and perhaps most poignantly, a glimpse of the relaxed human touch that has become the Duke's signature style. Edward arrived on Canadian soil beneath a sapphire sky, the kind of crisp early summer blue that seems designed to flatter photographers and dignitaries alike. Straight from the tarmac, he set a tone of unhurried enthusiasm, greeting airport staff by name where possible and pausing for a brief exchange with a local children's choir, who had gathered, unexpectedly, to sing O Canada in both English and French. It was a small moment, seemingly improvised, but it signaled what would become the leitmotif of the entire visit, ceremony softened by genuine interaction. In Ottawa, the Duke's first formal engagement took him to Rideau Hall, official residence of Canada's Governor-General. There, beneath the high ceilings of the tent room, a chamber famous for its striped silk walls and its role in state receptions, Edward presented Duke of Edinburgh Gold Awards to a new cohort of young Canadians. The symbolism was layered, the air of the awards founder physically passing on certificates that attest to leadership, perseverance, and community service, the baton of youth meeting the baton of continuity. Edward's short speech was characteristically understated, but attentive listeners caught an echo of his late father's dry wit when he quipped that his own teenage years would have benefited from a little more volunteering and a little less loud music. Laughter rippled across the marble floor, and the ice of protocol melted further. If Ottawa represented the constitutional heart of the tour, the stop on Prince Edward Island, that slender crescent of land lying gentle and green in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, provided its emotional center. Islanders take enormous pride in the fact that their province bears the name of a royal ancestor, but for many residents the arrival of the current Duke felt more personal than historic. On a breezy afternoon in Charlottetown, apple blossoms drifting across the red brick facades, the Duke strolled down Great George Street toward Province House, birthplace of Confederation. Crowds were modest in size yet full of affectionate energy, students waving hand-painted Union Jacks, retired couples recalling, almost wistfully, Princess Diana's 1983 visit, a scattering of tourists drawn by curiosity rather than monarchism. It was here, amid the swirl of camera phones and the sweet scent of lilac, that Barbara Bernard stepped forward. She later described the moment with the vividness of someone who knows she will be retelling the story for years. Edward, mid-conversation with a local councillor, made a broad, open-palmed gesture, the sort that naturally invites closeness rather than formality. Seizing on that cue, Ms. Bernard asked with disarming frankness whether the gesture might include her. The princes replied an immediate, smiling, "All right," then triggered the hug scene round the Commonwealth. In that embrace royal watchers witnessed an unguarded warmth reminiscent of the late Queen Elizabeth's legendary walkabouts of the 1970s, proof that rank and relatability need not be mutually exclusive. Such episodes are not orchestrated, they cannot be scripted by courtiers or choreographed by press secretaries. Instead they rise spontaneously, becoming the anecdotal jewels that illuminate an otherwise procedural schedule. And they matter. In an age where sovereign relevance is measured not only by constitutional function, but by emotional connection, a single heartfelt hug can eclipse a dozen ribbon cuttings. Back on the mainland, the Duke's tour pivoted from sentiment to innovation. In Halifax, he chaired a roundtable with ocean tech entrepreneurs, spotlighting Canadian research into sustainable fisheries and plastic-binding seaweed. At Vancouver Island University, he unveiled a partnership linking the Duke of Edinburgh's award to climate change fieldwork for students in remote coastal communities. Each engagement threaded two consistent themes: Edward's desire to update his father's youth program for the 21st century, and the Crown's broader mission to champion environmental stewardship across the Commonwealth. Yet the week was not solely given over to officialdom. After a late evening reception in Victoria, witnesses spotted the Duke slipping out with minimal security to sample poutine from a harbourside food truck. The vendor, blissfully unaware of her customer's identity until the moment payment was tendered, later marveled at how politely he queued, like everybody else, and thanked us for staying open past midnight. Such small acts of ordinariness weave themselves into the legend of a working royal known increasingly for quiet authenticity rather than headline grandeur. While Edward shook hands and delivered speeches, observers also noted the delicate diplomatic undercurrent coursing through the trip. Canada is navigating renewed conversations about reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, about its place within, or perhaps beyond, the Westminster model, and about a world in which geopolitical rhetoric can abruptly question national sovereignty. Against that backdrop, the Duke's presence, though ceremonial, carried a reassuring gravity. He attended a round dance with Mi'kmaq elders, accepted a braid of sweetgrass, and truly listened, according to participants, to stories of residential school survivors. These gestures do not rewrite history, but they acknowledge it, and in acknowledgement there is often the first flicker of healing. As the tour progressed westward toward the Rockies, the Canadian press began referring to Edward, half-jokingly, as Her Royal Highness the Hugger-in-Chief. The moniker stuck, not merely because of that single affectionate moment on Prince Edward Island, but because it seemed to crystallize a larger truth, that this prince, long relegated to the quieter wings of royal service, has emerged as the monarchy's unofficial ambassador of warmth. Where his older siblings wield gravitas and global headlines, Edward dispenses a gentler brand of soft power, the power of approachability. Observers back in London have taken note. Courtiers whisper that King Charles, ever sensitive to public mood and eager to slim but strengthen the operational crown, sees in his youngest brother a bridge between tradition and the emotionally intelligent leadership modern audiences crave. Assigning Edward a solo national celebration like Canada Day, with all its diplomatic optics and media scrutiny, was both a vote of confidence and a strategic test. Judging by the overwhelmingly positive Canadian coverage, the Duke passed with comfortable distinction. Even so, travel of this intensity is not without personal sacrifice. Edward's 7-day schedule left scant room for rest, and sources confirm he spent most intercity flights tapping out briefing notes for upcoming engagements rather than napping. Yet the reward, by his own admission during farewell remarks in Ottawa, was the renewed reminder that across an ocean we share not only a constitutional bond, but countless interpersonal connections, thousands of tiny threads of kindness, cooperation, and curiosity. His voice caught briefly on that last word, curiosity, as if still marveling at the affectionate daring of a certain islander and her spur-of-the-moment hug. Back home, Berkshire fields await, along with Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, who herself has recently been lauded for quietly groundbreaking work on gender-based violence and agricultural innovation in Malawi. Their reunion will likely be private, away from camera lenses. But somewhere in the conversation, perhaps over Earl Grey and digestive biscuits, the Duke may recount the precise warmth of that Canadian embrace, the laughter that followed, and the lesson it reaffirmed, that royalty, at its best, is measured less by titles than by touch. For now the Commonwealth map is studded with the footprints of Her Royal Highness the Good Hugger. Canada has offered its thanks in fireworks and maple leaf bouquets. And across the Atlantic, watchers of Windsor affairs have gleaned another quiet chapter in the evolving story of a monarchy learning one tour, one handshake, one spontaneous hug at a time to speak the universal language of human connection. If you enjoyed tracing every nuance of this Canadian journey, do let us know your thoughts below. Should modern royals embrace more moments of unscripted warmth? Does Edward's style represent the future face of Windsor diplomacy? Share your views, like this extended report, and subscribe for the next dispatch from the ever-unfolding saga of Britain's royal family. ChatGPT